All right. So, yesterday, I asked you to identify 3 characters from the text that you felt were super important to the impact of the plot. Now, you could take, or I could take, any single name out of that book and write a paragraph about him or her, right? Because if it was somebody that wasn't important, they wouldn't have mentioned it. So even if we're talking about the friend of the friend who helps with the thing before they meet with the friend, well, there's at least 3 things I could find in the book, right? But I encourage you to find 3 that you feel, I don't want to say passionate about, but at least you're interested in that person and what his or her accomplishments were. Because if you're choosing somebody that you don't care about, somebody you don't like, or somebody that was mentioned in some little tiny paragraph and you can't remember their name, well, don't pick that person, right? So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go over these steps with you. You are going to follow along very carefully because this essay you're writing on your own, remember? And I'm perfectly confident in you, but I still need you to focus. The biggest problem I see with the honor students is they have a hard time focusing on what they're writing about. It's like all of a sudden they start talking about one thing and next thing you know, a chicken walks across the room and then they're distracted and now it's something else, right? For some reason, my honor students have always wanted to include more information than necessary. So what I need you to do, and this is what we're going to be working towards over the next 3 years, is you expanding your thoughts while still remaining focused. And that's not always easy to do. So we're going to start today. You ready? Mm-hmm. Now, for those of you at home, you have 2 options. You have this digital form, which I think is more difficult to use, but if you're a techie geek, go for it. Or you have this form, which is what we are going to be using in class. This one we write on because it's easy to have that here and the computer here, and to be able to look at both of them at the same time. And I will say this, my 8th graders are writing an essay, and they write their essay in a day. I usually give them 2 just because we have other things that we do. But if they had a full day, they could plan it and write it. They prefer this. I don't know why. Nobody wants the digital. Now the kids at home will use that. Sometimes maybe they don't have a printer or whatever. But they prefer the digital. Yes, my dear.
Could the kids at home like draw one out
Yep.
and then send like a picture or something?
Kids at home, you had a good peer question. You absolutely may draw this out and take a picture. That's what they're doing with their sentences. So where you're writing them on your desk, some of you are writing them on paper, they're doing it on paper, taking a picture and attaching it. Okay, we ready? So the first thing I'm going to do, come on. Uh-oh, yes, there it is. I think I'm on the wrong day now, aren't I?
You're in 7th grade.
How'd that happen? What happened? Oh, there we are. Okay, so please let me say what I need to say before you start writing. So those of you in class, put your pencil down for a minute, okay? You're gonna have plenty of time. So this is your writing prompt. Remember that's from our other essays? And it reads, throughout the nonfiction text bomb, many individuals were important to the building and stealing of the atomic bomb. Choose 3 important figures from the text and write a 5-paragraph informational essay describing each of these people and how he or she impacted the development of the text. Be sure to cite 3 specific pieces of information in each body paragraph. So for each important person, how many pieces of cited information do you have to have? 3. Not hard to do. Remember, we looked at the back of the book. The index tells you where you can find those people. And right there, it's where that information is going to be. Each body paragraph must have at least one quoted. What does that mean?
Quoted means like a citation that's word for word from the text.
Word for word from the text. And one paraphrased, which means what, Marley?
A paraphrase means that it's saying one thing from the text but in a different way.
Yeah, you're putting that into your own words. So if you have to have 3 citations, and one of them has to be quoted, and one of them has to be paraphrased, what's the third one gonna be?
Anyone.
Your choice. I say this because most students will gravitate towards quoting, and they'll never learn how to paraphrase, which is actually the preferred method as you get older, okay? So I encourage you to at least one time in each paragraph paraphrase. All right? We're not gonna get down to this now. The part that is highlighted is your writing prompt. That is what goes right here. So I'm gonna give you a couple minutes and you need to write that out. Just the yellow part, because that's actually what you're gonna write about, right? Let's see. I put a little note up here. For each person, you need 3 pieces of evidence. Can you see Elizabeth? Okay. If you guys cannot see, shift your little bodies one way or the other. I need you to be able to see, okay? You can move your desk a little bit. Just remember to maintain your social distance best as possible. All right. The next step we have to do is look here and see what is it we are looking for. What is it? This is when you look at these prompts and you have to say to yourself, okay, what does Dr. Knight want from me? Village, what do I want from you?
3 people.
Okay,
that
3
impacted
people.
The development of the plot and that you find interesting.
Okay, I like that. Can anybody find an abstract noun? This is really tricky because the abstract noun that is hidden in here is used as a verb.
Impact.
Oh my gosh, I love you. The word is impact. That's going to be our what?
Abstract noun.
That's our abstract noun. And remember, our abstract noun is going to go in the center of that first wheel in just a minute, right? Boy, I only had to ask one person. Yes. Yes, though, Alex, we are looking for 3 important figures that had the most what? Impact. So I think if we look at that, we could say importance, but I like impact better. Don't you think that's more fun to write about? Because that's what you're talking about. How did they affect this text? Okay, are we ready to move on, guys? Can I take it away? All right, cool. Those at home, we're looking at our abstract noun impact, 3 important figures. All right, now you gotta find this guy. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go to this. You guys have already written all that highlighted part here. Now this is gonna get tricky because I cannot save this. Do we understand that? So you're gonna have to write what you need to write, because when I'm done, I have to erase it. Otherwise, it'll be all over everything we work on. So you have to make sure you're taking really good notes. This, I will remember none of exactly what we did tomorrow. Yes.
If they really want to pause it, they can. If they really need time to write it, they can pause the video. And
Yes.
write it down.
They can pause it. And I always write that in there. Make sure you pause the video if you need to. Okay, so what did we decide was our abstract noun?
Impact.
So in the center of your first wheel, you're gonna write impact. Now, here's where I wanna see who remembers essay writing. What is the first thing we are going to do with that word, Willie?
Use it in a sentence without
You-
explaining the definition.
You absolutely rock. You are going to use the word. And just so you know, I'm gonna do the first paragraph with you kids,
I didn't know that.
okay? I'm gonna help you get set up. I'm not gonna leave you all on your own. What's the next thing you're going to do?
Define.
You are going to define it. Man,
How do you know?
where'd you kids come from? Because that's the way I always teach it. All right, now what's the next thing we're gonna do?
Explain. Do we like have our thesis, or is that last?
That's last.
Oh.
This one's your thesis. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Emma,
Introduce the book and the author.
somebody kept notes from last time. So here you're gonna introduce. In this case, it's the book, not the story, right? We wanna call this the text. We wanna call it a nonfiction text because this isn't a made-up story, right? This is a true account of events. It's not even really a story. So we're gonna introduce the book or the text and the author. And in one sentence, we're gonna give the title of the book, the author of the book, and what the book's about. We're gonna do that in one sentence. Then finally, if we're talking about impact, and we know that our thesis is going to do what? It's going to list first person, second person, third person, right? So this is your first person you're gonna talk about, your second person, and your third person. This goes in your thesis. What happens in between here and here? Kaylin? It's not evidence. This is different. This is always going to connect this to this. Does that make sense to you? So whatever word you have in the center of your wheel, you're going to connect it to your text. So you're basically going to say that there were many what in this story? Many people. We don't want to say characters. Why?
Because they were made up.
Because they're real people. Many people, and you can say impacted, and we'll develop this later, okay? Make sense? How we doing so far?
Good. It's good.
Very cool. All right, I'm keeping an eye on the time because I want to make sure, I would like to get this planned out the best we can and write the first paragraph. Or at least get started. So, do you know who your first person is?
Yes.
Your second person?
Yes.
And your third person?
Yes.
Write their names here, here, and here.
Do we have to write all of their names?
No, you can just put their, like their last name. You will write their full name in your thesis when you type it. Keep in mind, kids, that this is a planning tool, and if you learn to use this efficiently, you're gonna get it done so quickly that this essay is just gonna pour out. If I gave you a short text, which I'm gonna do, and I said, okay, we're gonna write a 5-paragraph essay, you're all gonna go, oh, will. You're gonna figure it out, and then you're gonna remember this, then you're gonna know what these are, because that's the easy part. You're gonna know evidence needs to come in here, and then your conclusion, okay? What do you think the next thing I need you to do? After you put them here, where are you gonna put them? Jacob? And remember that your people, listen carefully, put your pencil down or just hold it for a second. Whatever order you mention your people here in your thesis is the exact same order they have to be in your paper. No exceptions, no excuses. So, the first person's gonna go here, your second person is gonna go here, which is body paragraph 2, paragraph 3, right? And your third person is gonna go there. So, go ahead and put those names in, but before you do that, make sure they're in the right order. You want them in as chronological of an order as you possibly can. So if you're gonna write about Lona Cohen, that's lady with the tissue box, remember? Are you gonna have her here?
No.
What heck no, she doesn't even show up till that last chapter or two, right?
Yeah.
So she can't go till here. What if you're talking about Oppenheimer?
Isn't he right in the middle?
He could be here or here, depending on who the other person is, right?
Yes.
What if you had Leslie Groves and Oppenheimer? Which one comes first?
Gross.
Leslie Groves, because he chose Oppenheimer. Now, Addison's got her hand up, so I'm gonna assume she's gonna say Oppenheimer was introduced first.
We talked about his childhood.
And that's good, but be careful, because you're looking for how he impacted the making or the stealing of the bomb. So even though we learned about his childhood, maybe interesting, is it relevant to,
Don't we learn about his college too, and like his job, and how he's a physicist that's working at California,
but
Berkeley?
you could, go ahead.
I was gonna say, that is an important part to his character, but he's more important in the later chapters compared to Leslie Groves, for example, who's more important in the beginning of the book.
I think so. Now, that being said, if you've got them in an order, okay, and you plan this out, and then as you're putting all your evidence, page numbers and stuff in here, you say to yourself, that's not the order I wanted them in, change this number. Don't erase everything, just change the number, draw a big arrow. I don't care, because this is a what?
Planning.
It's a planning tool. It is not your essay that I am going to grade. I'm going to collect this, and I'm gonna look at it, but I just wanna see that you planned. So put your people in the order that you plan to write them in, which must be the same as your thesis. Yes, Mr. Village?
I have a question about like the order. So
About the order?
Yeah.
Okay, list your people, we'll help you.
Okay, so I have Harry Gold, Werner Heisenberg, and Ted Hall. Harry Gold goes first. But do I put Hall or Heisenberg? Because Hall was a spy for the Soviets developing the bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Heisenberg was the guy developing the bomb. So should I put Hall first or?
So you're saying that Heisenberg and Hall are happening pretty much at the same time? Kind of, one's developing, one's trying to steal.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't care. when you go to write it, if you're writing it and you're like, ooh, that would make more sense if he came first, then all you gotta do is cut that paragraph, move it, and then change your numbers here. Kylie?
Wasn't all like said to be signed before? Because that's when Berg was pretending to be a Swedish student, right? Because Heisenberg is, I don't know how to pronounce it, was like the main German physicist on the atomic bomb.
And Ted Hall was the,
The spy
Spy.
getting in.
But he kind of,
But he,
yeah, I might be leaning, you're saying Hall should come first. And I think he's talked about first in the text. That's usually a good sign too, kids. Look at where they're introduced. But I don't want you to get all caught up in that now, because you can develop these, and then if it feels like, hey, this isn't flowing, this doesn't make sense, then flip them, right? It's your paper. Okay, did you put your 3 names in?
Yes.
All right, so we want to add some transitions at the beginning of each paragraph, correct?
Yep.
So one transition might be
First.
in the
Beginning.
beginning or in the earlier parts of the text. Now, if your person, if your 3 people all come in the second half of the book, you can't say in the beginning of the text, right? You could say when we first meet, but we can't say we, because we is first person, and we have to write in third, power of 3, it's everywhere. So when the reader first meets, you can say that. So you could say something like that, when the reader first meets, you can put here later on, and we'll work on these, okay? So here's what I want you to do. You should have 3 names in here, and what do you need for each wheel here, here, and here? Who remembers? Liam?
Evidence and an explanation.
You do, but not on the wheel. You don't need all that. Who remembers? Elizabeth?
You have to put like whatever like things that you're doing for your character. Like say for Harry Gold, we're doing the very beginning of the book and he gets caught. So maybe we'll put like gets caught. And then
Right.
Yeah.
So you need to put these little guys, you know what these guys mean aside from hashtag?
Number.
That's your page number. Every one of these middle spokes only has to have a page number, not your first spoke, not your end spoke. So put a page number, which you already found evidence, and if you didn't find it all, you got a little bit of homework, right? I want you to find it. And you're gonna put a page number. So if you already know your page numbers, what are you gonna do? Put them there. Now, going back to what Elizabeth said, you have to put a word prompt. So if I'm talking about Harry Gold, what page is that on, Elizabeth? Do you know?
1, 2, and 3.
All right, so pages, let's say it was introduced on page 2, I think it was made a little more clear. So I would put a 2 here, and I would put the word caught. Just all these are, kids, are word prompts to remind you of what it is you want to talk about when you get to that sentence, right? Can we do this?
Yeah.
All right, this is what I want you to do. What do we got? Oh, we got 10 minutes. So for the remainder of class, I want you, and those of you at home, I want you to put a page number and a word prompt for each one of these. So for each person, and then what's this last spoke going to be?
Conclusion.
The conclusion, so you need to have a word there. And don't make it the word conclusion. Right? You could, if it's Harry Gold, you could say, he was in jail. if that's what you're talking about. It's going to be the end of whatever happened with him. We good? So you need a word here, a page number and a word, page number and a word. Are we looking? Page number and a word, and then do we need a page number here? No, this is just a word. Are you gonna write whole sentences here?
No.
No, because you're wasting time if you do that. And when I give you a scrap paper, or your teacher gives you a scrap paper for that error test that I'm pretty sure President Biden just said we have to take, you don't wanna waste too much time planning, but you want to plan. You wanna keep it as short as possible. So do that for each one of these, and tomorrow when you come in, the first thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna check these, so they have to be done. Don't do anything with this guy. Just these 4. And then we'll set up our paper and start typing. Sound good?
Yes.
We good? All right. Good job.